In the pharmaceutical industry, only one constant remains: change. New science, new technologies, and evolving customer needs drive an endless cycle of innovation and disruption. Amidst this dynamic environment, two indicators offer a powerful lens into the true strength and sustainability of any pharma company: freshness and fragility. Freshness reflects the share of revenues earned from newly approved drugs. We define newly approved drugs as those launched in the past 5 years, 2020 to 2024. Meanwhile, fragility represents the portion of revenues at risk due to drugs facing patent expiry. In this spotlight, we delve into the 2020 for revenue profiles of the top pharma companies, analyzing how these two dimensions interplay to shape a company's trajectory. Let's dive in together with our sponsor this week. And welcome back to the channel. Here's what we'll cover. First, we'll review key insights from the 2020 for revenue profiles, looking at both scale and recency of revenues. Second, we'll discuss the varying levels of portfolio freshness across companies. And third, we'll explore fragility risks and expiration exposure before concluding with strategic implications and recommendations for leadership. Starting with insight No. 1. Revenue scale versus innovation recency. Once again, the big pharma players dominate in revenue scale. The top 5 companies alone generated well over $300 billion in revenues in 2024. However, high revenues don't always mean the same thing as having a recent product portfolio. Some of the industry's biggest players have a large share of their sales coming from aging portfolios that are vulnerable to near-term expiration. Our second insight is that there are varying levels of portfolio freshness. At the high end, a few companies such as Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca derive more than 30% of their 2020 for revenue from drugs launched in the past 5 years. This signals not only robust innovation pipelines, but also successful commercialization. These companies are not just innovating, they're converting R&D investment into revenue impact. On the other hand, firms like Pfizer, Novartis, and Sanofi have less than 10% of their 2020 for revenue coming from recent approvals. With such a low percentage of recent approvals driving sales, these companies may face headwinds if their current pipelines don't replenish fast enough. Our third insight concerns fragility risks and expiration exposure. Several firms including Roche, Merck, AbbVie, and Bristol-Myers Squibb face substantial exposure to expiring drug patents in the next 4 years. For some companies, over 40% of their 2020 for revenue comes from drugs that will lose exclusivity by 2028. These companies must find a way to replace their declining blockbusters to avoid significant revenue gaps. So what does this all mean? What are the strategic implications of these findings? We can plot each company as freshness and fragility scores on a 𝗙𝗫𝗏 matrix, which plots the percentage of revenue from recently launched drugs against the percentage of revenue from drugs set to expire over the next 4 years. This creates 4 distinct groups of companies. First, there's the high freshness, low fragility group. These companies are in the best position for continued growth and resilience. They have a strong mix of new products and minimal near-term expiries. Next, we have the low freshness, high fragility group. These firms face an urgent threat. They have little recent innovation and heavy exposure to expiries. These companies must rapidly accelerate R&D productivity or find new sources of revenue. One way to do this could be through bolt-on acquisitions of late-stage assets from innovative biotechs. The third group is the moderate freshness, balanced fragility group. Most companies fall into this category, and it represents a manageable risk. These firms need to make tactical investments to refresh their portfolios and stagger product life cycles. So what should pharma leaders do to ensure their company doesn't fall behind? Here are 4 key recommendations. First, benchmark continuously. Don't just track what has been launched, but also what is earning. Use freshness as a measure of pipeline to revenue conversion. Second, de-risk with pipeline acceleration. Strengthen lifecycle management and fast-track high-potential candidates. Third, pursue M&A and licensing. If your company falls in the bottom left quadrant with low freshness and high fragility, acquiring biotech assets may be a strategic necessity. Finally, future-proof through diversification. Reduce dependence on any single therapeutic category or aging asset. In conclusion, the 2024 landscape paints a clear picture. Pharmaceutical leadership today is not just about the size of the portfolio, but its freshness and adaptability. Companies that successfully balance innovation with revenue resilience will define the next wave of industry leadership. So to all the leaders in the audience, are you ready to lead the next wave of innovation? Let's make it happen. Thanks for watching.